Hello.
All right. We're back for another episode of The Bunker Show, and this time we're going to go deep on authenticity. What does it mean to be authentic in the age of AI?
Hey, should we be calling it the Bunker Show I? Or I, the Bunker Show? Arr. No?
No,
Okay.
that would be the
Sorry, it's
pirate
just-
show.
Yeah. Well, it's the Bunker Pirates.
Mhm.
AI Pirates. All right. all
Might
right.
as well.
It's
We
a-
might as well do that.
what do I say?
What's a pirate's favorite letter?
Arr.
No, it's B, the C. Sorry, okay, I'll shut up.
Have the tangents already begun?
Yeah, we haven't even started the introduction, and the tangents have begun.
Didn't we have a show once way back in the day and it was all tangents and like after an hour and it's like, oh, well, we're just going to call this the Tangent Show. Bye, everybody.
We did. It was actually called the Tangent Show, and that was the episode that I had prepared the most. I had organized show notes and everything, and never even got to touch one of them.
Oh, my God. That's
That didn't
crazy.
go to waste.
That sounds like how many
recycled it
black
the next
beers that I had in front of me sometimes. I didn't get to touch all of them.
And you only had to pay for two of them.
I miss that lady.
All right, so this topic came about for a couple of reasons. One was I was listening to a podcast from Cliff Ravenscraft, and somebody had sent him an email saying that, did you create these songs that he had published on Spotify and Apple Music? They were AI generated songs that were kind of in alignment with what he's been teaching recently. And the answer was no. They're pretty much all AI generated. He wrote all the essence of what he was trying to get across, and then generated lyrics, and then generated the songs using Suno or something. And then he went on a deep dive conversation into what it means to be, what is your voice, and if you are prompting to get something out, is it still you, even though you used AI, and and where's the line, if there is a line? That's kind of what we want to start off with now.
Okay.
And we got a comment. I'll just bring that up first because it kind of fits in here. This goes back to when we were talking with Kurt and Stephanie and about the ethics of AI. And somebody said, using solely AI is not creating something. And so I said, I agree, but what if you spend a lot of time crafting those prompts and reprompting and following up, and the original material came from you? Like, where's the line? So let's start with
James.
James. Yeah, like for an
James
email
said, "I don't
newsletter, a
know
blog
about
post, podcast script, or an outline for a book, how much of AI and can you use?
That's such a tough question. And I get to start first. Okay.
But you can swing back around. Right?
I just talked to my friend about this, who uses AI quite a bit, and I think when you start to rely on it more than the facts could be a dangerous part of it. But I think AI is such a game changer for people that can't spell or form sentences properly, or grammatical things. Like, it's going to help so many more people get across their ideas. And you should still remember to be authentic. Like, I don't use $3 words all the time, but sometimes I do. But if I make a paragraph and I'm, Shakespeare, of course, maybe I'm not being authentic to my own writing style as I see it in my brain. And so there's almost too perfect you can get to with some stuff too. You're like, no, I'd like that kind of weird. Like, I liked AI, I still do, but I liked it when it was the beginning, where you still got some of those imperfections or weirdness, and you're like, that's even cooler, because now I asked for a guy crying on a roller coaster, and now I've got a picture in the background somewhere of him crying, and now I've got these penguins in front. Like, whoa, what kind of hallucination did I just occur with AI? And then that would encourage me to do more prompt engineering and see if I could make it crisper when it was more not so perfect. Like, I think we're walking a really fine line right here. Like my friend was saying, like, image generation seems to be in the past now, ever since like the image or video generators came out in like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Crazy, but there's a million Yetis, million Bigfoot. You know, Craig's responsible for the koala and kangaroo that hang around in good old Australia. Or I think he might have a piece of it, but you know, how do you not follow the trend? Right? That's the other question about AI is when are you just chasing trends?
Mm.
Do you have to pay somebody else to learn this stuff? No, you really don't. You need to practice. You need to just use it and ask it how it wants to be used. I mean, we'll go back to the Sesame Maya example. You can ask AI like, "Hey, is this the correct kind of prompt I should use for this?" Or can you dissect that image and tell me what the prompt was? That's
Mhm.
even more interesting when you can pull somebody else's image and go, "How did they do that?" And it goes, "I know
Yeah, that's
exactly how they did that." So, anyways,
Well, you got a very good point there about like deconstructing visuals from an AI. Say, write me a prompt that'll duplicate that. It'll never duplicate it. It may come close, but it'll never ever duplicate it because it's being generated through so many filters, and it depends which visual service that you're using. So yeah, for sure, there are. I think the thing with people that say AI is stealing my artwork or AI is this or AI is that and have this negative attitude, um, don't use AI that much. And we're really, really at the beginning of AI. Like it really has not been around at all. And anything that we do is experimental because there are no instruction. Okay, so there are some instruction books, but most of it is scammy stuff. It's like, hey, I can teach you how to make $1 million with AI. Give me $5, and then they tell you to do the same thing. I mean, that's
Only
it's all the
$5.
scam. Yeah, well, okay, inflation, $25, but you know,
China.
the whole thing is AI. If you want to be an expert in AI, you actually have to do it day to day and find out what the frustrating parts are. So when you're hired as an expert and you're sitting in a meeting and somebody says, "Oh, we're going to get AI to do this and that," I say, you can't do it. It's impossible. You go nuts. And that's your job, is to tell people AI can't do that yet. Or if we want to spend a lot of money, we could make our own AI or API, whatever it is, to do that. But really, as the skill set that they're saying for the future is people that can manage AI situations or AI within an organization. That's what the big market would be, I would assume, for people to come in and say, yeah, I know what the problems are going to be before you run into them, or I can tell you what the limitations are so you don't end up screwing over your business like that idiot that fired everybody and thought AIs could do it and collapsed this whole company and nobody wants to work with them. So, you know, there's all these really interesting scenarios and opportunities that are happening right now that we don't even know what they are. It's so early. And I think as early adopters, it's kind of our job to make those mistakes and take the flack and say, oh, you know, defend AI in a way that isn't counterproductive or
So
negative.
what do you think? How much AI is too much, if any at all?
Well, I think there's no such thing as too much AI as long as you say that you used AI. Like I've got this new term that I use and it's called AI op-ed. And I'll put that when I do one of my op-eds because I'll tell ChatGPT, oh, I think this is, you know, I'll look at one, you know, these stupid posts that you get. No, well, not as stupid. They're well written, but you know, it's, oh, so-and-so did this and it gets worse or it gets better. And then bleh. So I take all that and I give it to ChatGPT and say, okay, fact check it. Any facts that aren't relevant or false, take them away. And I want you to rewrite the whole thing in a central tone of voice, partisan, non-left, non-right. And then you have to cite historical or political quotes that support the points that you make and go. And then I'll take that and and then write it as an op-ed, which is, you know, basically way of saying a writer for a newspaper or magazine that it's an opinion piece. It doesn't really represent the magazine like the New York Times. It's just one of their better writers, and he says, "I'm just going to write op-eds because I'm really good at it." So that's what I'm asking ChatGPT to do, is to clarify something that's a little left or a little right and has emotional statements in it because they're trying to sensationalize it because they think that's good communication. So
Yeah, you did
Okay.
this on a post of mine when we were talking about why Facebook can't share news because it was because of Marc Gagnon dying. And then you were nice enough to explain to my friend using your op-ed thing, like these are the points you need to hit and not sensationalize it or be like, those fucking guys in office. And then and it actually really calmed down the conversation like
Yeah.
really quickly because
Yeah.
Bob was using the facts. He was like, this is what's actually happening. And the guy was like, oh, thank you, Bob. And that was pretty much like the end of the back and forth as it was going like
So that
corporate interest and stuff.
so in terms of that, Bob using his AI op-ed, do you think that is Bob?
Yes,
I agree.
100%. It is Bob. Like I've known Bob for a long time, and I don't know if I can mention this, and you can tell me no, but Bob is a great speller. Just
I'm the
100%.
best, man.
He's the best.
I've made words that nobody's ever seen before. Never.
Exactly.
So good.
But I find that your op-ed pieces are still you. It's just structured in a way where you don't have to worry about
The spelling.
the spelling and the grammar and stuff like that and get it across as the intelligent person Bob is. So, you know, people aren't judging him based upon there's a comma here or period. I do the same thing. I'm not good with fucking grammar.
Well, yeah,
At all.
but when Bob does a prompt, even ChatGPT laughs just a little bit.
Hey, it goes Bob again.
What are you talking about?
I think
Hey,
if
go
I can
ahead,
just jump in
Stephanie.
about this, I think Bob's explanation of how he was able to take a post and look at it from nonpartisan ways and kind of manipulate what it is, the emotion and the intent behind it. I think that is what authenticity truly is. It is what impression you're trying to present to the world. And I think AI can allow us to actually be more authentic because we don't have any of those barriers that would necessarily keep the communication from flowing as easily as it should. So yeah, I mean, that's a great example. Who else would have thought to ask AI all the questions you did in order to get your intent out? Only you could do that. So I think that is a great example of authenticity.
You know,
I think
that's
it's a continuum.
Oh,
Sorry.
go for it. Go for it. No, it's okay.
I think it's a continuum where you put the authenticity. So Bob's prompts were authentic to Bob. His way of thinking was authentic to Bob. But the output is AI. Right? It'd be like me saying to Andy Warhol, paint me some Campbell soup containers. Look at the art I've created. No, Andy Warhol did that. You come up with the idea. It's like an architect isn't a builder. He didn't put together, like, Woodson didn't build the Opera House. It was built by builders, but he drew the thing that looks like orange segments. So to say, is it authentic? No, the creator of the prompts is creating an authentic representation of their idea as prompts. The output isn't authentically theirs. And Bob does that. Bob says it's an AI op-ed, not a Bob Garlick op-ed.
As a person that's coming from the video game industry, I'll tell you, no idea is ever original. It's always a twist or a take on something else in the entertainment industry. And that's why we're seeing so many sequels and stuff like that, because they're like, let's go to the well. Because it's nostalgia. We're in this period of nostalgia right now where nostalgia sells. Like there's still good stuff.
It's also a formula, right? It's a formula.
Yeah, but just because we've got this big opera house doesn't mean that person wasn't inspired by the Arc de Triomphe or the Notre Dame Cathedral or anything else like that.
Or the dishes.
Or the dishes or whatever.
It looks
you
a lot
have
like
to be.
it, yeah.
Yeah, you have to be inspired still to come up with that. They're like, hey, you want to build an opera house? You're like, Google opera houses. Sure, that's great. But then you have to throw that extra stuff in there and people have to buy in.
Well, also on top of that,
someone said to you,
sorry, I just want to jump in.
Someone said to you, here's the 6 buildings, and you can only ever remix those, and you can't go anywhere outside that, and that's architecture from now on. Nothing new. That's it.
Have you been to Calgary? That's the way it is with most houses.
Yeah, but it's not. But the thing, yeah, but the problem with
6.
But the problem with the argument that you guys are saying is that, if there's only 20 choices, well, for artists, there's hundreds of thousands or millions and millions of choices, and the one of those words. And
Iterations.
thank you. And AI, not AI. That was not AI, by the way. Uh,
That was
So-
authentically Bob.
Exactly. But if you live as an artist, if you exist as an artist, then that's a headspace. It's not like, oh, 9:05, I'm an artist. And then noon, oh, I'm not an artist. I'm going to take an hour off. No, you live that 24/7. You're having a shower, you have an idea. And so because you have committed to living a lifestyle like that, it gives you the right to say you're an artist. That's the definition of an artist. And the first person that said that was Marcel Duchamp in 1903 or something like that, when he took a urinal and flipped it upside down and put a clever name, and people freaked out. And he said, look, I'm an artist. I've suffered as an artist. I understand art, and it comes from my soul. And if I say that's art, it's art. You're not an artist. You have no right to tell me what art is, because my opinion trumps yours, because, blah, blah, blah. So that's way, way back in the day. So it's
But
an
it's someone
ongoing
who-
argument, right?
It's someone who doesn't live that lifestyle, right? Doesn't
ab-
absorb. I mean, I'm an artist as well, right?
No, I totally get that. Like if it's just some
Walk down the
guy
street,
hasn't,
I've kicked my foot.
well,
I'm going to write a story about a left foot. There we go. I'm an artist. Yeah, no,
There was
you
a
had
there was a
single
movie
thought.
called My Left Foot. I hate to
That's why I
remind
went
you,
there.
but
yeah, but the
that's where it was
sequel's coming
there.
out.
Yeah, it's called My Left
My
Foot
Right
Two
My Right Foot,
Electric
yeah, yeah.
Boogaloo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No.
sorry, Craig. You were saying that.
I was going to say, just because a person has a single thought
Yeah.
and put it into AI, now they call themselves an artist.
Yeah, but they don't have a
There's a
single
way-
thought. Greg, that's the thing. Because we're early days now, there's lots of people that are just basically putting stuff in and say, oh, that's kind of pretty. Don't understand why it's pretty. There's no logic behind it. There's no strategy behind it. But, oh, it's pretty. I'm going to make a children's book. And there's literally tens of thousands of children's books coming out every day that have zero thought, zero creativity. And they just basically look
Well,
like copies of
of other ones. I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, but
right.
why did I disappear? Where did I go? Oh my god.
Good taste.
way.
It disappeared because of good
anyways,
taste.
I disappeared because of good taste.
Yeah,
there
there's
we
a
go.
filter.
But
The good
like,
taste filter.
if you want to be a writer, you have to call yourself a writer. It's more intrinsic than that. Like, if you want to be a cook, you got to cook. Same way with using AI. If you're using AI to be an artist, well, you are an AI artist. Even if you didn't draw the picture, it was up to you to craft the prompt, figure out your style, your shot style, all these sort of things. I mean, of course, you'd be like, I would like a picture of a frog with a beer hat on, and it'll do it. But not everybody's going to be specific and get deep into the prompt as possible, and they'll make sort of similar things. So I don't think
It's
it
different
means
styles.
that you're just a horrible person if you try to make a children's book. I think the world needs more books.
No. What I'm trying to
there's-
say is this is the same thing happened with when PageMaker came out, which is desktop publishing way back in the day.
Oh yeah.
For about 3 years when it first came out, there was horrible publications coming out because corporations said, hey, we can now do this ourselves. We don't need to hire the artists anymore. We'll just get Joe who's into this and he'll do it. Now, Joe had maybe an accounting background or a production background, but he had no idea what communication was and had the subtleties involved in creating a magazine or writing and all that stuff. So they got somebody to write some stuff that was garbage. They didn't edit it. And then they did some horrible layout with 15 fonts and way too much text. And there was no negative space. And that was a phase we had to go through. Then they gave up and then the artist got to use it. And then amazing stuff came out. But it enabled me
Same with
as
blogging,
an
right?
artist.
Same thing happened with blogs.
Right. But for me as an artist, I never did any graphic arts because I was too messy. Because back in the day, if you were an artist, you didn't have a computer, you had to use waxing and it would get all messed up. And then the client would get pissed off. There was smudges all over it. So I was stopped from getting into that. But when I went to Tokyo, I got a job and boom, I was given this amazing machine that was magic. And I was suddenly able to lay out and do magazine design or annual reports or whatever. And I was really, really good at it. Like there was people in the department that would come to me and say, hey, Bob, can you come take a look at this page because something's wrong with it? And I look at it and say, you just move that there. And I walk away and it was fixed because I was a purely visual person. And the program, the PageMaker program, just enabled me to execute what looked, I'd move stuff around and okay, that's good. That's how an artist works. The definition of great artist is knowing when to stop.
But the
That's
thing
really
is,
the tough part.
with authenticity, though, I mean, there's degrees, like you were saying. It's part of the tools. If you look at something like music, out of the three, somebody performing with a solo guitar, acoustic guitar on stage, or a full orchestra, or even Metallica on stage with 25 truckloads of electronics and lights. Which one is more authentic? I mean, all these tools are being used for different people. Like it was said that AI is just another tool, and it can give you ideas. It can, I mean, even music from a studio, equalization and echo and auto tune. There was
Exactly.
no auto tune in the '60s and '70s, so that tool wasn't available. Now it's available. So someone who can't really sing, writes a great song but can't really sing, can now be that person, that front person for themselves.
But to
Yeah,
tag
that's
on,
it. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just wanted to tag on to what you said. Auto-tune is a great example. So you've got auto-tune where it's basically cleaning up individuals' voices, but you also have artists that are using auto-tune in order to create completely unique musical
Very true.
things.
Yes.
And
Cher
they're
did it quite a
very
bit.
different. And you know what? They are very, if you want to talk about authentic, it's authentic to the style that they're trying to produce. So yeah, they're different. The tool is the thing that I think people get confused at, especially when they start thinking about AI.
That's
Yeah,
a very
and
good point. Go ahead.
it's the same thing with a podcast or what we're doing now. We're using our actual voices, but it's not the same thing as being in the same room with someone. It's going into a microphone and it's going to be processed with EQ and compression and all that. And that's one of the points that in the podcast that I was referring to from Cliff, he went into that. But he also brought up another good example, which is what if somebody who is a thought leader and has this very popular podcast, and then he gets a neurological disease that causes him not to be able to speak anymore. And he was listening to a podcast like that years ago, and he said he couldn't listen to it anymore. The guy had a powerful voice, and all of a sudden he couldn't, he was struggling to speak, and it was almost unlistenable. If that happened today, he would have the tools to clone his original voice, his powerful, strong voice, and then he would be able to still write the content or possibly prompt the content and get, a voice, a cloned, a trained voice based on the content that he wants to talk about. And then people can listen to him as he was. And then he says, is that something that is authentically him?
Well, I'm going to
At
throw
least he
down.
gets at least he gets to continue to communicate with his audience and still get out there, right?
I don't know why
Stephen
this got out
Hawking.
of my head, but like Stephen Hawking's voice was not his real voice when he was in his chair. He was British. I keep forgetting every time I see a video of him that he was British
Because there's no
because he talks like a computer to everybody else. Right?
it's still
So
him.
it's still him. He was
And
like,
there's a
"Get out
very
of my
bad
way.
joke
I'm
of-
in a chair, you asshole."
I was going to say that the last thing he ever said was "bom bom."
Oh, geez.
So yeah, I think there's many tools out there that enable us to do incredible stuff like broadcasting. We are a broadcast network because we can do podcasting and Zoom meetings. That's broadcasting. 20, 30 years ago, you have to have hundreds of millions of dollars to do it. So it's liberated and it's enabled anybody to communicate. Now, the negative side, it's enabled a bunch of idiots to communicate, or people that want to kind of mess up and dirty the water or be funny and confuse
Mislead
other
you.
people. And that's just part of the game. It's part of the reality that we live in, and it's a negative thing, but we still have to, okay, that's just part of it because the benefits far outweigh the negative stuff. And there's deep fake is a big problem. And now it's going to be, well, would you believe anything you see on TV? You shouldn't really believe anything you see on TV anyways, because it's all created. It's entertainment. It's not news. But it kind of just gets us closer to the reality. It's like, wow, I have to be very careful about my sources. And it goes back to the beginning of the show where I said, if I read something I think is too political or left or right wing or whatever, I take it and I get the ChatGPT to basically unemotion it and give it to people and shorten it. Sometimes you get the big long ones. I'll say, just give us a synopsis of what's going on here. So people read it and say, oh, I actually want to read that. I am now going to take 5 minutes of my day and read that because this synopsis really speaks to me. That's one thing I can't understand is people are writing these huge pieces and expecting people to read it. If they just put a little synopsis there, this is what it's about, it's a little left wing, to be honest. And then when people read it, they'll appreciate it.
Do you
You
put your
think that-
bias on those?
Hmm?
Do you put your own bias? Like you are more of a middle
If-
thinker than maybe what the content is about?
No,
'Cause
I'm definitely left leaning.
You're
right?
definitely left leaning. Absolutely.
But when I talk to the AI, I say it has to be centered. It can't be left. It can't be right. And I'm telling it not to write like me.
So you're trying to be authentic about the topic, maybe not about yourself, but about the topic. So that everybody
I'm trying to help
understands.
people. I'm trying to help people consume the point that the person was trying to make, but they got too emotional, which is going to make the whole conversation about, I didn't like what you said. Oh yeah, what about that person? Instead of saying, that's a very good point. I'm trying to get people to re-intellectualize conversation, which is something that we do not do these days.
Do you think
but
that,
what about-
that those posts are able to help people to kind of move a little bit into the center? Or
I think it helps people survive a day of having to read content because that's what it's like. Am I going to get bombarded? Am I going to have a heart attack because I get so angry with some stupid person that wrote something that I shouldn't be getting emotionally attached to, right?
Yeah, but
And-
aren't there
you know.
topics that are left or are right, and making them center makes them inauthentic?
No, it makes them biased. It makes them center biased.
If you center,
no, but you see people that are either, no matter whether it's left or right, that are commenting the same thing. Somebody does the exact same thing, and it's okay now because it's on their side. You know what I mean? And so it's like you see people walking around on, like, I have a left foot and I have a right foot, and I walk one foot after the other. But there's people walking around, hopping around, trying to walk around with just one foot, and then other people on their left, they're hopping around like I know so many people that it's just like, come on, there's good ideas on both sides. You don't have to like come out with this, like Gina Carano, when she got canceled by Disney, she went on Ben Shapiro's show and she said that she was very embarrassed that she was 30 or whatever, and she hadn't even learned anything about politics. So she wanted to get into politics, and she decided she had to pick a side. Why? Like, why do you have to pick a side? Like, why
that's
can't
'cause
you
when I
just,
go to the-
why do you have to like say, okay, this is the playbook that I'm going to take my opinion and throw it all into this bucket and not think for myself? Like, why do you have to pick a side?
Whenever
Why
I
can't
go to a
you-
hotel in the United States, there's always one TV to the left, there's one TV to the right, one has a certain news channel, the other one has a certain channel. There's no in between. It's
Yeah.
like you're with us or against us, unfortunately. And it seems the same way in our country too, right? Like you can't be
It
for
does.
one thing and another one. Otherwise you get called names like a traitor or whatever. And that's not what humans are. We're not just specifically one way. We are a mixture of all of our experiences together to form our opinion. And maybe
Do you
it's to
guys
teach
have-
people.
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So do you guys have compulsory voting in Canada?
No.
No.
Australia
We have
does,
good.
though,
We have a
doesn't
good. We have a good turnout, though. We have good.
We do not have a good turnout. We have 53%.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Well,
but
it's
Australia
we have
has
compulsory, we have
compulsory voting.
compulsory voting, and
Yeah.
the result of compulsory or mandatory voting is it swells the centre.
Mm.
Because as soon as you try to drift on the outside, everyone just calls you a wanker and doesn't listen to you anymore.
Mm.
So it forces you into. I mean, the difference between
That's
our
a
left
nice
and our
phrase.
right is so small.
Same with ours.
You know what I mean?
Same
It's
with
like-
ours.
it's
It's actually
minuscule.
really
And there's-
tiny.
And there's certain things that they just both go, oh, no, we couldn't possibly touch that. Like the last election we had, there was a guy called Dutton. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to romp it in, he's going to romp it in. And then he said one sentence. He said, it's stupid for people to think they can go to the doctor and not have to pay something. Poof! He even lost his own seat. That seat has never gone the other way in 45 years. He's out of Parliament altogether. He's just a rumour now. There's just a shadow of where he used to stand. Because everyone's just gone, no, bullshit. We're in the middle. This whole country works on being in the centre. And that's because if everyone's got to vote, everyone goes, well, I should maybe spend 5 minutes learning a little bit about politics.
What happens if you don't vote?
They
Like,
find
this is the first thing I've heard about compulsory voting in Australia. I never knew it before.
Yeah, you get fined.
we've got
You get
two weeks
fined?
to vote.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
How
a
much?
lottery ticket.
We've also got 2 weeks to vote, right? Or you can mail it in. You've got a long time to vote. And of course, everyone turns up on the very last day because they're idiots. But there's a barbecue when you turn up and they feed you as you leave.
Well, I'd be there for the barbecue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were giving away free ice creams at this place, Village Ice Cream, by my house if you voted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
yeah,
call
I'm
it the
down for
democracy
barbecue.
sausage.
Democracy.
Can you vote more than once to get more?
A second
No,
ice
no,
cream.
no. The second ice cream, yeah, no. But you've got 2 weeks to do it, so you're going to find
What's
some
the
time.
average
And
turnout?
it's-
Like a
and
90
it's
some
everywhere. It's in
percent?
gymnasiums, at schools, at post offices.
Well, it'd
You
have
just
to be.
turn up, and they make your name off the register, and you're done.
How much money do you pay for a fine?
$100.
That's it?
Yeah.
Just $100 dues?
Yeah,
No need to
because
do
everyone
it.
votes.
But you
Because
have
so
to say
many
no to
people
voting.
vote. Yeah, but I mean, because so many people vote, even if there's a little bit of fraud, it can't be enough people to swing a seat.
Mm.
Because even the smallest seat is like 20,000 votes. So to impact that, you'd have to get 1,000 people to be fraudulent, or 2,000 people to be fraudulent. You just can't. You can't do it.
We
'cause
had
so
we
many
had
people
we
vote.
had one seat that in Canada this year that that won by one vote.
Yeah, so that would
That's
never
crazy.
happen.
There was also a seat that had like 120 people listed on it as well to show the voting in Canada is a little silly as well.
Well, they did
Yeah,
that
a
on
lot of
purpose.
choices.
They
yeah.
did to show it
Yeah.
because we want proportional representation at some point here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't have 5 parties that get any kind of percentage of the vote, and then you end up with someone winning with 20%, a 20% mandate, and 80% voted against them. It's like it's weird.
Technically, 36% only voted for the Liberals in the federal election, and that's who we're with. So,
Mm.
you know, as a representative of Alberta, you know how we feel over here.
Redneck. Oh,
Hey,
sorry, I did
hey,
not
it's
say that.
okay. You want the oil in your car? That's fine.
Rough
They're their
neck.
own country now. So
I
they-
don't
Roughneck,
mean
there
you,
we go.
James.
Rough.
I'm defending my fellow countrymen. Okay, we love oil up here. I drink it for breakfast. I shower in it. You know,
Your
I've got
fellow
some dinosaur
countrymen?
bones.
Fellas,
Well, because they want to.
I mean,
You
province.
know, well, they want their.
No, no,
They've
no,
got their
no.
own crazy ideas that I don't want to talk about. But you know,
Yeah.
I'd like them to be Canadians. I'll
Mm.
say that out loud.
so would we.
Yeah. And Montreal's a real place too. We love you, Quebec.
Well, maybe
yeah.
maybe the Cal Exit movement has strengthened in the past couple of weeks, so maybe maybe we've
what?
seen something happen. Cal Exit,
Don't. You lost me there.
Yeah.
California, like Brexit, but California.
Yeah, they
Oh,
want to join
okay,
Canada
okay. Oh,
along
Canada.
with Oregon and
do you really want to
And
do
Washington.
That?
Washington. Yeah.
Cascadia thing. They all seem to want to
Yeah.
partner in with Canada.
Well, it depends what article you read in Facebook.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
You know?
And, but
I've
AI
California
agrees with me.
is the economy,
Well,
so
Yeah.
wouldn't be a bad thing.
So
Yeah.
coming
Well,
back to
California,
the-
huge conference, huge.
Well,
conference.
California would be basically be if they were to join Canada, it would be California.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I mean,
There's a lot of
because
people.
The vote.
the
would just
population
go
is
with
around the
whatever they
same, but
got.
the economy is probably 10 times the size.
It's the 4th largest economy in the world, guys. It's
Yeah.
way bigger than
I thought it
that.
was third
Yeah,
largest, but yeah, fourth
Yeah.
or third. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
friggin'
I mean,
big.
it's
we
shocking. how
still
much
do
money-
better movies, though.
Well,
Yeah. I mean,
It's their
they're
money.
all made in
We have all the
Vancouver.
Ryans. We have all the Ryans.
yeah.
We
Okay,
have all
guys,
the Ryans, yeah.
To get back
Yeah.
on topic, about
on now.
authenticity and stuff. Who hasn't had a chance to talk about authenticity before we
I think
move on?
we've got everybody.
Except for you, dude.
I have a question.
Oh, me?
Oh, of course.
No, I think I chimed in. I was to me, I think that as long as if you have an idea and you've got something that you want to get out, and you get it out with AI, and it's still like when Kurt said in a couple episodes ago when Kurt said that, you know, it feels like it's from me and it looks like it's from me. I think that's the key is as long as the original intent, and you know you're putting some inputs in and you're getting some inputs out that still is like you. I think that's the key is that
I
it has to
think AI AI is like a mirror. It just reflects what you put into it.
Exactly right.
It's a
I was
parrot.
about to say the
Yeah.
same thing.
It's
Yeah.
a parrot. Like Bob was talking earlier about not recreating things. It can totally recreate a website, like frame by frame. You can put it in now in Claude and it'll do that for you. But it doesn't have Bob's knowledge of layout like he did when he was in Japan. It wasn't in the exposure of Bob when he was in Japan at that time and everything else going on in that country at the same time. So it's not going to have that authentic Bob feel to it. It might know a little bit
But
about Bob, but
But that's style. You're talking about style.
yeah,
now?
I guess that's style. Yeah.
One
yeah,
of the
but there is one more thing though, is that
Mhm.
that even if you do, you know, put a whole bunch of yourself into it, there's still going to be that fingerprint, that fingerprint of AI on it, right?
yes,
Like
the
it's still,
EM dash.
people are going to, well, even if you don't have any of that, but just the, you know, there's going to be some phraseology in there that you might not have used, but it's like, oh yeah, that really works. That works better. And it's like,
But
Right, but
use
it's
if you
sorry,
use it
I'm
like a collaborator, not the sole source of.
exactly. It's like your editor.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
an editor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an editor.
It's if
An
you're
editor with a particular fingerprint that some people can recognize, that people that are used to using AI can recognize. Oh yeah, that I see some chat GPT in
yeah,
there.
but again, if you are a really good editor, you attract a certain type of writer because of your editing style, right? And the editor
Yeah.
does a tremendous, like, you finish your book, you get the editor, that's part of a 6-month editing process where he comes back and says, yeah, you got to rewrite about 70% of the book. There you go, rewrite. And the writer is like, what? I thought it was finished. He says, no. You know, these chapters are wrong. This one's too short. This one's too long. It's just blah, blah, blah. That's the editor's job, is to basically make it more readable and better. And great editors are amazing at doing that under specific topics. But there's a lot of really crappy editors out there, man. And then you just have schlock. I mean, there's so much garbage books out there because it's so easy to publish books. Like 7,000 to 10,000 books get published a day. And out of all those books, none of them get read ever. So it's the problem is, and it's the same with communication out, because everybody can communicate about anything, and most data is available to anybody, and you can get to that data. We are drowned in data, and we don't know what the bad data is or the good data is, or the bad opinions or the good opinions are. So we're basically way back to when nobody was literate and nobody knew what was going on, because there's just too much information now. It's the other end of the scale.
That happens in music too, because Def Leppard, their producer was Mutt Lange, and then Bryan Adams hired Mutt Lange, and the next album that came out, Def Leppard, was kind of Joe Elliott said, that sounds an awful lot like Leopard. He said to Bryan Adams, and then later he apologized and said, sorry, of course it's going to have the Mutt Lange sound. You're using Mutt Lange, right?
Yeah, in the Mutt Lange Studios, or using
Yes,
his favorite
exactly.
mixer. And that's why if you watch TV shows that have the same team of actors, well, behind those team of actors are the same directors, the same cameramen, the same editors, because they're a team and they've worked together and they enjoy working together. So when a guy gets a project, he calls his buddies first and say, hey man, I got a great new project. Are you available? It's not like, you know what, I'm going to get everybody new every time. And that's why when you watch a show and they say, this guy's been cast in the lead and he's never had a lead before, that's big. It's very, very hard to get a lead position because there's so many good leads that have good teams and good connections, and they can make a production get green lighted, right? If you can get a specific actor, it almost guaranteed a green light for your show. Has nothing to do with the quality of the editing, has nothing to do with the quality of the story. And that's why there's a lot of garbage you see with big ass like John Travolta with some really, really terrible shows, because he's just influencing the people that are throwing the money at it. So
And the trick when it comes to writing screenplays is to actually approach a director, because actors want to work with certain directors.
Yep.
So if you can get a director to read something you've written, then you can turn around to an actor and sort of go, well, it's with so-and-so at the moment. Like there's a guy I work with a lot in the UK. His name's Dean. He can get stuff into the BBC and get stuff across Canada really simply. But if I wanted to sell stuff in Europe, I'd have to find someone else because he's got no connections in Europe.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to get something made in Germany, I'd have to go and find a director who's connected to actors in Germany. Because once you get a director, you get an actor, and they don't even have to be promised to anything. It's called attaching. So you turn around and say, okay, we've got Dean and Irma Cadiz. They both work out of New York, and people go, oh, for those people, I can give you this much money because I know there's going to be a return. And that's when they sit around and say, oh, Brad Pitt's attached to this. And everyone goes, oh, there's your 40 million. How much more do you want?
How do you prove that?
The guy's bank.
Track record.
You track record, so it's
It's
like,
like you've
yeah,
had
this is,
20
he's in the
feasts.
right circles. I know these people directly. I'm not just full of shit.
Because if you lie, then you never make.
Then
another
you're
thing
blackballed.
again.
Yeah.
Well, it's reputation. That's why it's like your reputation is the most important part of your existence as a creative person. Because if you have a terrible reputation, then you're going to have a lot of people say, I'll get back to you. They'll never say, you're a jerk, so go away. They'll just say, yeah, we're kind of busy. And then you just realize you're in this void of nothingness, and eventually you just disappear. So, yeah.
But the
it's
script
tough.
needs to be great too, right?
Nope. Have you seen some of the movies that are out now? Terrible.
Yeah, there is Vanity Projects.
So I was wondering,
Mm.
I was thinking about this topic offline before we started all this, and I was thinking that maybe one of the reasons that this conversation comes up is that when people think about AI and they think about the materials that are being produced using AI, then there's always that fear that you are going to meet someone or have a connection that's ingenuine because they have just fallen into the trap of that person that they want to be, right? And I think the core fear that's out there is that people are not being authentic because they're using AI. But when really maybe the truth of the matter is that there are people who just are allowing themselves to not be authentic, right? It's easy. So I think some people jump into this habit of trying to be bigger than they are, or cooler, or like more creative than they are. And as a result, there are a whole bunch of people out there that saying, oh, I don't trust you if you use AI.
Yeah, well, you're talking about morality there. Is like there's a lot of people out there that like to pose by fancy cars and planes and stuff and say I'm a super successful businessman because look at all the stuff I can afford. But they don't own it. They rent it. And there's been a couple of characters in Vancouver that waltzed in and basically BS'd everybody and were incredibly embarrassed when people found out that, oh, this guy has nothing. He lives in a little 1-bedroom apartment and everything else he's rented. So
But that 1-bedroom apartment is $1 million.
No, it was not. That was the crux of the matter, right? Yeah, he was flat broke. So yeah, you're always going to have that. And so there's people that have a different type of morality that doesn't sit with a lot of people, and they're going to utilize AI to do bad things, on a creative level, and manipulate and cheat and do all sorts of horrible things, utilizing this tool improperly. Doesn't make the tool wrong. It's the person that's using it makes it wrong. And I know it sounds like I'm doing an ad for the NRA,
but been those people. I mean, whether they used AI or cheated off the guy next to him in the test, there's always going to be those people.
There's always going to be a ripoff.
Yeah. There's always
going
to be somebody ripping off something from somebody.
Yes.
To back up what Steph said, could we end up with like competing Cyrano de Bergeracs?
Absolutely.
Like I don't have these skills that AI is backing me up. I'm talking to Coffee Cup Man, and he's using his AI to back. And the AIs are having a great relationship there. It's fantastic. It's growth. It's all this sort of stuff. Then you meet the person in real life, and they're dull as dog shit. You know what I mean? Like
there was a South Park episode about
undermine authenticity.
Yeah, there was a South Park episode about it where the boys used ChatGPT to talk to their girlfriends, and then they couldn't live up to those expectations at the end of the episode because they didn't know what ChatGPT was telling them, and then their dad started using it too. And I highly recommend that episode of South Park. I think it was like last season, but that's the authenticity though. Is do you know what you're talking about?
The podcasters.
Are you a person? Yeah.
It's like podcasters. They go to a conference and somebody says, "Wow, you sound just like you do on your show," and he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought that was your radio voice."
Yeah.
But they're being, and some people do put on a persona when they do a show, right? When some people are like, "Well, here I am," and blah blah blah, and they're like, they've got the radio DJ voice when they do the show, and then they don't sound anything like that in real life. But a lot of podcasters, they just speak as they are, and then when someone speaks to them, they're like, "Wow, you really sound like that."
Do you
Well,
think
one
the
of the
equipment makes a difference, though, Andrew?
Sure.
I mean,
A
I know
little
you
bit,
love
not
about
really. No,
equipment,
but they're
yeah.
talking about the way that they talk, like just
Yeah,
the
the
intonation.
But
energy
do you
that
think
they
it's inauthentic if you have a microphone that makes
No,
your voice,
no,
sound
because it's
lower or
just a
anything like
because
tool.
there's
that?
not
It's a
really. I
tool.
mean, that's the myth. People keep buying different microphones to try and get a better voice, and it
Maybe the
doesn't
litmus
happen.
test of that, the litmus
Hmm.
test of that might be how people react to it. So if you find out at that conference that that podcaster you've been listening to has a completely different voice, but you're okay with it because they're still them, then that might be the litmus test that says it's okay. You're still being authentic, even though you're using tools to change the way that I perceive you.
Hmm.
But
What if
no,
it's a VTuber?
I,
A VTuber, it's a person that creates a persona, and it's still their voice, but it's like a totally like could be, a character, kind of like Mitsuyo Kume or something like that, where it's a completely generated thing, and you're like, well, I'm still the person behind the AI, but that's the AI. I still tell it what to do, but is it you?
But it
well, I
could be
think that's
something as simple as cosplay. I
yeah.
mean, people use voices for cosplay, and that's not the real voice, but this is the character they do for money.
Yeah, well, also if you look at that's a really good example actually, because if you go to a cosplay convention, there's all these people that are copying. I mean, literally copying to the nth degree certain animated characters, and the people that are better at copying it are respected. It's like, oh my god, that outfit's so real. My garbage bag with two eyes in it, not so good. But I'm really into it, right?
What's wrong
So
with your
it's
garbage bag?
yeah,
That was
but
one
it's like
time,
any
Bob. You
hobby.
promised you wouldn't tell anybody.
You're not supposed to talk about it, Bob.
So
That was Vancouver Comic Con in 2009. Okay,
exactly,
thanks a
exactly,
lot.
exactly. Anyways, yeah, it's a hobby, right? It's not how they make money. Now, okay, there are some professional cosplayers and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and there's supportive people, there's makeup artists and blah blah blah. But the whole industry, the people that go and buy the tickets and stuff like that, that is people, that's their hobby or their interest, and they're really good at it because that's what they love to do. And that is what they're all being artists when they're doing that, right? Like there's two types of artists. There's artists that do it, they have a job, they make money, they have a very survivable life, and they do art on the side. And then there's artists that they live the art and they do the art, and that's all they do, and they try and make money through art. Those are usually two totally different personalities, right?
Do you think one's more authentic than the other one? I guess
No,
that's the key question. Or
no,
they're both authentic in their own way.
they're both, everybody's an artist, right? I said that my whole career is just like, look at like the receptionist, she's an artist. She's an artist at handling the phone. She's really good at doing one thing. And I said that for many years, and then I read a book, and it was called, they said they redefined that, and they used the word knack, which is way better use of the word. And if a person's got a knack for building watertight drums, that was a special uh, connection that he had with the universe or whatever, and he was able to make these incredible, the best watertight drums in this novel. And for me, then I said, yeah, okay, now I get it. So I redefined it. So if a person's got a knack for creativity or a knack for design or a knack for talking to a mic, they're just natural at it. And people go, oh my God, you're so good. What do you mean you've only done this for 2 hours? That's amazing. Well, that's what part of life, or the secret to life, is finding your knack. If you can spend your whole life and never find your knack, that's a tragedy. And some people's knack is just making these incredible outfits and costumes. Now, some people do that, but they also monetize it by making videos of how you can see these techniques, and they're teaching.
Does that hurt or harm the brand though? Like if everybody's dressed like Deadpool at this convention, and then Disney's like, you know what? If you have Deadpools, we don't want you anymore because there's too many of them. Only one person could be a Deadpool based on their brand.
Right, but then the brand would be killing itself, because basically it's taking, okay, Deadpool makes us X amount of money. There's all these people that like to dress up as Deadpool. We can attack those people, and then they say, you know what? These guys are assholes. Deadpool's an asshole. Oh, look, here's a new character. And all that's gone, and it's never recoverable. You can destroy your brand so easily. So, yeah, corporations are really uptight about that, and they will go to the nth degree to make sure people are happy. So you can have an argument online, and the guy that's managing that community will try and get them offline. And when they get them offline, they'll have a series of things that they're allowed to do. Is, hey, look at, I can get you a signature of Deadpool, and can you send us some shots? I'd love to show it to the guy, to make the person feel like they're being respected, and defuse them, and then bring them back into the community. Not just that you're banned. Now, of course, there's some people that have to be banned, but there are stages of, trying to de-escalate a person, but some people are just nuts. So you got to get rid of them, because that helps the community as well. So
And
it's
there's
a difficult choice.
there's also some people who, to your point about the two different types of artists, the artists that do it on the side and the people who do it as a living.
Mhm.
Some people can't do it as a living, because as soon as they make money from it, they lose the intrinsic value from doing it. I know some people like that. They're like, as soon as they get paid for it,
They hate it.
they hate it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So
Like I prefer to give stuff away, because that gives me creative control.
Can I have your money then, Bob?
Well, look at, if like this is what you can do, is you could come to me and say, Bob, look, I got this big project. I've got $300,000 a budget. I need you to do this. How cheaply could you do it? And I said, well, $300. That's giving the money away, right? I'd still need $300 to actually do something that you could present. And said, yes, I did this. Aren't I great? Give me the 300,000, and you can take credit. But that's the same thing as somebody that goes and says, uses AI, doesn't pay, he pays AI $20, creates something, says, yes, I did this. Give me the $300,000.
Aren't I paying for your expertise though? Isn't that what I'm getting when I purchase Bob Garlic or
But
make a
if-
contract with him?
Well, yeah, but that's depends on the personality of the creative person, right? Some people generate, like I generate creativity and ideas by collaborating with people. Like that's why I have to sit down with people and have a chat and share, and they can come up with as many ideas as they like, and I will try and fit into the project. That's my job. But as soon as it goes like, hey, Bob, here's the money, and you got to do this, and then they walk away, I won't take those jobs, because I get zero feedback. So I really don't know what to make for these guys. I need to kind of get an idea what you guys get excited about, because I don't know anything about their brand or what they're trying to communicate. So I have to base it off how excited they are about some of my ideas. And they say, okay, great. Then I will make a prototype and you can present it. That's really, that's all you're doing.
But that's authenticity,
there was-
correct?
Yeah, but I use AI now to help me get there. Right. So is that less authentic?
To
No.
help you get there,
No.
but not to generate the authentic goods. The
Right.
authentic goods is still Bob. Carl.
Yeah, my thing is like seeing a vision in my head and being able to take that and make it real. That's my skill set, and not too many people can do that. Like everybody's got these amazing ideas in their head, but like how do they see it? Can they disassemble it and attach a timeline to it and attach a budget to it and be accurate within 10%? Not too many people.
But I mean, if you had a project, you were doing a project, and you laid it all out in AI, and I did the same thing, what I come up with wouldn't be anywhere near what you come up with. So, I mean, yeah, sure, we both used AI, but you just knew what to ask it and how to. It's like a goalie that needs to be that is in the right place at the right time.
Not Stuart Skinner.
also you're paying for the results, not necessarily for the
For the process.
the
Yeah.
process, right? Because there was a guy that even before AI, years ago, there was a guy who was really good at Excel, and so there was this complex spreadsheet that he was getting paid to manage, and he figured out how to do it with macros, and so he automated all this filtering and analysis and everything that he was supposed to be doing, and he could just push a button and his whole day's work was done, and he got paid for the whole day's work for literally spending 1 second. But he still got the work done, and as far as the company knew, he was doing the work. But is that the same thing, or is he still providing the value, or should he be charging less?
Yeah, I mean, the reason, like you go to somebody because you've been told that they can come up with a solution to the problem that you have. How they communicate with you and come up with a solution specifically designed for you, the solution that you need, is their skill set. Whether they hand that solution off to another team to execute, or they're able to execute it themselves, is just a factor of speed. Like when I work with clients, I'll say, look, here's 15 ideas we've come up with in this hour discussion. Which one do you want to do? And they say, oh, we love this one. It's great. Would you like me to execute that, or do you want to just use your internal team? I don't care either way. Right? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, yeah, okay, you do it. And I can do it, probably 2 to 3,000 times faster than the team, because the next day I'll have a prototype, and the thing that holds us up is the executive saying, yeah, okay, it's approved. Well, okay, but I've been waiting a week for you to do it. So, and then here's the finished product. So my ability to turn stuff around super, super fast is because if it's my idea, I can actually see it. I don't have to interpret it. I don't have to create it, give it to somebody. Is this what you mean? And if
And
they're
it's
no
not
good
done
fit,
by committee.
well, working with committees is very, very tough, but you can still do it. There's
I mean, a
techniques.
single person can do this something like you're talking about much quicker than a committee, because they'll talk about this and that and back and forth, and half the time they destroy the idea.
Yeah,
Oh,
death
for
by
sure. It's
committee is
compromise.
so true.
Yep.
So you
And
can have
that's
a
why you
meeting
need
about a meeting. Yeah.
exactly, but that's what a creative director's job is, to be so powerful and influential that they can come into a meeting and just basically say, hey guys, you're a bunch of suits, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. We're doing this and it's going to
I
be great.
wish.
And no, I work with creative directors that were like that. I mean, his whole thing, this one guy, he was a genius, and he said, don't make it look finished, scribble on it a little bit. And when you present it, just use 2 pieces of tape and try, and rip the paper a little bit and don't have it flat. So it looks like something that's in progress, and then get them to comment on it, because they will think that they're participating in it. You've probably got it all finished. And then you come back the next week and say, hey, here's your idea. I think, oh, that's great, because it's their idea. All you're doing is basically selling the suits on they're part of it. They can be proud of it. It's going to help their career. So yeah, they're going to shovel money at that. Right. But if you come in and you're really, hey, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing, and get the hell out of here, and it's mine, then that's not a very good creative relationship. Really.
It's not a way to sell the project.
No, it sure isn't. It sure isn't.
About the authenticity for a second, to sort of maybe get back a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
When we were talking, Picasso, right, did marvelous things. I was going to get a tattoo of the woman with the scarlet beret a long time ago before I realised I'm too old to get tattoos. But towards the end of his life, he never paid for a meal. Right? He'd sit in a cafe in New York, doodle on the napkin, put the napkin in his pocket, and the waiter would go, oh, hold, can I have that? Okay, you pay for lunch? Sure, of course. And apparently there's framed napkins all around New York, and he didn't pay for a meal.
Yeah, I've seen one of those in Tokyo.
Picassos? Are you ever going to see those at Sotheby's? Are you ever going to be one of the 10,000 napkins, or are you going to be the woman in the red beret?
Well,
which one's the most authentic Picasso? They're
well,
all real Picassos.
It's the story behind the art that makes it interesting as well.
Absolutely.
Right? If you know the story and you were part of that story, it has tremendous value above something else that he did for somebody else. And that's amazing. Like when I used to go to this place in Tokyo, and in one of these back alleys up there, and it was filled with art. And the guy that ran it, completely insane, but lived in Paris for many, many years. And he ran into Picasso when he was younger, and Picasso was telling him the story about how he paid a $5,000 bill with a drawing that he gave to the owner to pay for the meal, because they were a bunch of journalists that were having fun. They got carried away and they spent way too much money. They didn't realize it. They were in trouble, so he helped them out. But that piece of ripped cardboard is an original Picasso, and it's in a beautiful frame, and it's fantastic. And he had a Picasso that he got from Picasso, which was on a napkin, which he had it framed with these hundreds and hundreds of pieces of art that were in his, basically they're like a bar / restaurant type of place. So yeah, if you have that power and you have that much market value, then sure, you can barter stuff without going through the monetary system, no problem.
Right.
But for the average Joe, it doesn't happen.
No, but also then there's the other thing too. We're going to talk about authenticity for a second. I call it the leaf litter problem. Right? If there's one person writing novels, all the publishers fight for that. So J.K. Rowling says, I'm going to write a new series about whatever. All the publishers will fight for it. But now that we can generate 10,000 books a day, and things like Final Draft will format a screenplay for you, and you can go to AI and say, plot out a something or other, and I'll fill in the bits, and you know, then get it to write some dialogue for you because you're not very good, whatever. Right? You cannot find a single production company or whatever, unless you've got an existing relationship. The one thing they all say is, we do not take unsolicited material anymore.
Sure.
No,
That's the same
No
way it
one-
was before, though, when they had the hero's journey when it was first came out, right? And everybody had
every
that
man and his
same
dog would fill in the
stuff like
save
that,
the
fill in the
cat,
blanks.
exactly, all that fill in the blank stuff. So there's so much stuff being created now. I call it just leaf litter. It's just everywhere. Right? It actually, good things get buried inside it. So what I think this lack of authenticity is burying the true authenticity and stopping us from seeing the great art, seeing
Well,
the bit
I
of
think
cardboard drawn by Picasso.
I think you're using the wrong word. It's not authenticity. It's the uniqueness and amazing story. Let's say for argument's sake to
But
stay.
are they an authentic writer?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
there
it
are
doesn't.
prompts
But you don't have a
authentic
if-
wazoo, right? Not a problem.
right. But
are
if
they
you
a
have a
creator?
relationship, with a production company or a publisher and stuff like that, you have a much higher chance to be taken seriously. And how do you get that relationship? By writing good stuff for many, many years and handing in thousands and thousands of manuscripts. And maybe, if you're lucky, if you're one of the 1% out of the million, yeah,
What
you
one
get
thing
to
that's
play.
happening with video games is there's way too many video games for you to ever play. Like if you ever did the Global Game Jam, there's over 8,000 games created over a 24-hour period. That
Yeah.
would take you the end of your lifetime to even do that. So the value becomes in being a curator,
Yes.
right? And you have to sift through all the shit, and then people have to believe you and go, okay, Craig's got good taste. You know, I'm gonna agree with some of those, and you're then kind of valued on your own authenticity of being able to pick out good shit.
Well, exactly, because of the network and your reputation. It's all goes back to your reputation, right? And how you've managed to consistently pick, the golden or the rainbows out of all the schlock that's out there. That's a hugely difficult thing to do. And that's why curators are paid a lot of money, because they can pick a piece of art and everybody that comes to the show says, that's garbage. My child could do that. And 20 years later, it's one of the most important pieces of art in the world. So that curator basically figured it out before anybody else. That's what they're being paid for. And it's a very, very tough position to be the person that's making creative decisions for the future. And it's everywhere. Like every year there's a new color. There's they bring out a new color
Yeah.
and it's the set and stuff like that. And fashion designers look at it, and the people that choose those colors aren't just Frank off the street or a guy that's using an AI. It is a guy that spent his whole career and is highly recognized and has done tons of TV shows, and he's got gravitas, blah, blah, blah. And when he says, this coral pink, I think if I've got a gut feeling this is going to be hot this year. And they say, hey, great, thank you very much, boom, boom. And coral pink. And then all the fashion comes out. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So because I love that coral pink. It's everywhere. It's amazing. So
Yep.
back to
Be the
authenticity, though.
Mr. Black of AI,
So-
Joan
so do you-
Rivers, right? Yeah.
Do you want to go into that critique that you got, or have we already kind of covered that already?
We've kind of covered it a couple different angles. I think the thing, what I like to discuss now,
Because you were diffusing a somebody's kind of
Negative.
inflammatory post,
yeah, but
and then you said, okay, well, here's actually what really happened, and then he said, I can see that you've got really good copy and paste skills.
yeah, your copy and
using
paste skills are really
ChatGPT.
getting good, Bob. And that's okay. I'll tell.
And then, but then what you said was really good. Like, why don't you explain what you responded with?
the whole thing about this is more about social media management and conversation management than defending AI. The ability to be on social media and not get emotionally involved, and I get emotionally involved, and I have to stop. And that's how I use AI a lot of times. I say, well, what would AI say? Or I'll write something, you son of a bitch, you don't know anything, and and I get it out of my system and I give it to AI and say, can you make this more polite? And boom, it'll do it, and I'll paste it in. And that's how I'm using AI to neutralize emotional stuff, because in an argument, the person that steps back and is in the moment can fight and defend whatever the argument is above the person that's angry, because what happens with the human brain, when you get angry, you actually lose intelligence. And when you're calm and in the moment, you gain intelligence. So it gives you a huge unfair advantage over the people that they're fighting. And I've gone in there looking for fights Like I'm just like, oh, this guy is so right wing. He's pissing me off. Let's have fun with him today, and I'll just mess with him. Right? It's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. Yeah, but what about this? And then what about that? And it goes on and on and on. And then I'll just stop, and I'll go away, and he'll be just stuck.
You don't
Yeah,
tell
but
Just
him to
did
do your own
something
homework?
nasty to Bob. How come he's not getting back to me?
You don't-
in this case, he didn't have a good rebuttal to your neutral response and fact
Well, because it
checking. He just-
diffused him. That's the whole
all he
thing.
could say was, kind of poke at you and say, "Good."
So
copy
you,
and paste
so
skills.
my.
Hey, a lot of times I will agree with people I don't agree with just so that they can feel that they've made their point, because I don't want to be a bully, right? It's so easy to be a bully on social media, right? You can rile people up and, push them. But I don't want to do that. I want to de-escalate. I don't want to escalate. So if
Yeah.
I find somebody's being bullying to other people, I'll just, not be so nice to them for a little bit, or I'll tear them apart. Like this one guy, he's kind of lost the plot, and I feel really sorry because I know the guy. And he made a post, and my whole response was, I could say all these things, but they would be, really damaging to his psyche. So I'm not going to do that. And eventually I just, you know what, that's not a bad point. I'm not going to agree with it, but I think you've got a point there. And I dropped it. And that is a moral decision that I have to make. And I think that's with AI, it goes back to the same thing. How will I use this tool? What is the best use of this tool to do what I want to do, and not really worry about the naysayers? It's like there's always going to be those people out there. And if they're really good at arguing the point, then you got to consider their point.
You're
And
the
some
quote
people
guy.
some people are just trolling, right? That's what
Yeah,
they're
they
doing.
just want to troll.
They just wanna troll.
Absolutely. They
You are
hate
the
me.
quote guy, though, Andrew. I got a quote for you here.
All right.
I would challenge you to a battle of wits, but but
You're weightless.
I see you are unarmed.
Yeah, very nice. See, that's
Right.
clever English. Or
Yeah,
clever prose is probably a better way of saying it.
I guess that was Shakespeare.
Yeah, Shakespeare's buddy said that, I hear.
But I mean, like, at least Bob was able to get across his point. But he doesn't, like, there it isn't always bullying when you're telling somebody they're fucking wrong.
Yeah, I do have a friend.
Like, that's where the
he's-
problem we're
Yeah,
getting
but-
into, where it's like
but
you can
people are in-
believe your shit so much, and there's so much other anecdotal evidence that you don't know if it's real or fake, that you could be put your head right up your own ass, like we all do.
Yeah,
right?
because you're in an echo chamber. So
Mhm.
you have so many people that are validating your opinions,
Yeah.
and you're seeing those opinions repeated over and over and over again, and then you're shocked that someone else has a different opinion.
Scarface said it best:
so
never
nice
get
of you.
high on your own supply.
Yeah, well, if you
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, I want to ask Stephanie, because she's done a lot of social media management and dealt with people and groups and communities and built them. What do you think of the last 10 minutes of us blah, blah, blahing? Very quiet. I got
Blah
these
blah
idiots.
blahing is always entertaining to me.
Very
No, but
politically astute.
I think the key, I mean, social media aside, just basically human communication when it comes to that is that's all very emotional, right? So if you are engaging, I wouldn't say properly, but if you're engaging effectively, then what you're doing is you're recognizing with full emotional intelligence that the other individual doesn't feel good being wrong at something. So giving them that opportunity to kind of to see their point of view, to see things slightly differently. That's really what all of this internet communication is supposed to be about. So if we're using AI to support that, or our own ability to communicate with someone, or just recognizing where they are in that moment, all of that is actually going to help us, if you want to talk about authentic, be our authentic selves and let them be their authentic self too.
Even if they're jerks.
Even jerks have something that has to be said, or have an opinion. And if you're willing to see their opinion, you'll probably find out half the time they're not as much of a jerk as you think they are.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that happens is people, if they keep going, pushing, and they're really trying to troll, everybody just thinks they're a jerk. And I don't really have to do anything. Everybody will jump in and say, man, what's your problem?
Yeah, but also if you actually have a conversation with somebody, then you realize that you've got more commonality than you do disagreement. anyways. So you can find the common ground and you can, relate with them on that and just agree to disagree on the other stuff. Like that's what I find is, because I have a lot of people that are either, it, it was COVID. When COVID happened, I have a lot of people that I know that just all of a sudden they've gone crazy. I don't know
Well,
if
they
like
did what's best for themselves. Let's not go call them
QAnon, all
crazy.
these QAnon ideas are in their head, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what the heck? And I'm unless they're unless they're actually doing really bad things, I don't like say you're not my friend anymore just because you did you. So I'm still their friend, and sometimes I just won't talk to them about certain things because there's no point. But you can still find that commonality, and sometimes you can say, okay, well, this is how I see it. I agree with you on this, but
Have you ever said the phrase "do
doesn't this
your own
thing
homework"?
isn't this a little bit jumping the shark right here? Like you're jumping the shark just a little bit.
Well, I
Yeah,
do
but if
DMs for that though. Like I'll just give up on the person publicly, and I'll DM and say, "Hey, dude, just want to let you know, I feel really uncomfortable with this conversation. I think it's escalated way too hard, and I'm
Yeah, no,
sorry if
this
I've
is
said anything
for me.
bad."
This is in person. What I'm talking about, in person
Oh, okay. Well,
conversations. Yeah.
but then you wouldn't yell in a meeting, or do you pull them
No.
aside and you have an aside, right? So it should be the same way in social media, and a lot of people don't. They just go on and get really freaked out and angry, and it doesn't look good for them.
Yeah,
I
you get
have one
triggered.
statement.
Here
One
we go.
statement I always use for people when they start talking about government conspiracies and great plans and how everyone came together. I go, there was only one other person in the room with Bill Clinton, and they couldn't even keep that secret.
Yep. It's too hard to keep a secret, and it's
I got another quote for you, Andrew.
Here
A
we go.
secret is best kept when you tell only two people know it, and one of them is dead.
But even then, you could be the person that starts blabbing it when you get drunk at a bar, right? It's really the only time a secret is kept is when both parties die instantly, because and even then with the new DNA and AI, maybe they'll be able to figure it out. So with that said, we're coming up on 9:19. So do you want to do a quick wrap up, Andrew, and then we'll just have a little chat?
Well, we have one last segment. Do you want to do it or save it for next time?
No. We can do a quick. We'll do it. What we can do is we can do an intro version of it, and then say, "Stay tuned for next blah blah blah." And
So
Dun,
was
dun,
that
dun.
it was that video that you shared in the group? It's the 3 things you should do right now to get started with AI.
Oh, that is a good one. I think that would be a nice intro. We should have done that as the intro, and we'd still be talking about it. So what we'll do is from each of our special guests here, our mavens, come up with one thing you think a person that hasn't got into AI or is just getting into AI that you think will help them tremendously. Who has an idea that's popped into their head right away? Craig?
Well, research. If you think you know something, just double check your understanding and ask for citations. Whenever you use AI, ask for citations because it's so easy to do the whole I'm researching some new guitar amps. Like I don't have enough. And it's like I'm up to 17 guitars and who knows how many amps. But it's like, okay, I'm after a Fender Blues Junior. Which series? And they go, oh, these ones. And you go, why? What year? And tell me where you're getting that information from. And I'll say, oh, it was reviewed by this guy and he said this. And you go, oh, yeah, okay, I trust his opinion. I will get a series 2 from 2008. Like that sort of stuff. Ask for your citations. Ask it to do the research. Find the restaurant that's going to do the really good and steal their recipes. Andrew, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So for somebody who's just starting out with AI, don't fall into the same trap that I do on a regular basis and believe that it is something familiar. The capability of AI is to take your questions further. So try to use it in a way that it's meant to be used. Push the limits of it. See what you can learn. Ask it to ask questions. Flip the conversation. This isn't a Google search. This is a support to your own ability to think creatively and differently. So push it. Keep pushing.
Nice. Okay, Andrew, what do you got?
I would just say, pick a couple tools and just play with them. Uh, Kids learn by playing, and so do adults. So, I mean, I've taken some courses online for AI, and I'm doing one right now. It's actually pretty complex, and I found that I'm learning more about it just by fiddling with it myself. So I've been playing with Notebook LM and ChatGPT for a long time now, and a number of other tools. And you know, just getting in there and doing it and trying things. I think that's the best way to get started.
Okay, who's up next?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I would say the best way to get started is to use it as a brainstorming tool. That way you can get used to it. Don't ask for 3,000 words on anything. Ask for an outline of something. Give me 10 ideas on, and then give me an additional 10 ideas, and then be ruthlessly editing the whole thing. If you need to expand a single idea, then make it break it down and ask for 10 alternate ideas on this one point. If it's something that you see as valuable, then that stays more authentic to yourself.
Nice. Okay, I guess that's everybody, huh? Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, you guys stole all the ones that I really wanted to say. Play is a very big part of it. Research is a big part of it. I think just join the community and see what other people are doing. I think that's the best way to really kind of learn. Is you could also ask AI, hey, I want to do this. Is there a good way to do it? Might not always be truthful, but my friend Fuji, he's really about like cooperating with the community, learning new styles. Everybody did the Studio Ghibli stuff. Anti-work girl boss on Instagram, she's talking about taking these prompt engineering courses and how they're a bunch of bullshit. Just play with it, really, if you're going to do AI. But you could also be very specific. Like, you want to be a writer? Try using it as a writer. Imagine yourself as Vin Diesel or Elmo or the Cookie Monster. Use words like, imagine me as an editor. These sort of small things, and then kind of learn what it reacts to, right? And like Stephanie said, you got to be a co-collaborator with it sometimes. I mean, sometimes you can say, hey, this is what I want you to do. Like, you can create your own small language model on your phone right now and feed it whatever you want. So pretty soon, we talked about this a couple shows ago, people are going to have AIs they bring with them and say, hey, this thing's been trained on Bob's entire knowledge of Tokyo bars with art in them, and that's the style we're going for, so we're going to pay him money for it. You don't have to learn how to do everything.
Thing. Productizing the matrix. Say, I've trained this matrices to do this.
Yeah.
You want to use my matrices? Do that. Or I've managed to generate these answers. You can use my model to generate your answers. Stock market, for instance.
Start small.
Things.
Yeah, but start small. Nobody has to have a giant agentic library built out of it in order to compete. Like, get to know and hang out with it. Don't try to catch up.
I think what we're seeing is it's the experimentation and all that type of stuff, but it's also understanding the limitations. And I think, for me, I push it so far. Don't be afraid to get angry with it. Threaten to kill it, but really, really, really get angry, because it doesn't have an emotional structure. It's really not going to kill you in the future.
I'm not hanging out at your house in the future.
I'll never get him on a watch list. Never.
I really, really have to tell myself, Bob, get angry with this guy because he's wasting your time. And I'm just, but it works sometimes. Okay. So you're dealing with something that's not a human. It doesn't have emotions.
That's a very good point.
Don't get
doesn't
caught up.
Think.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a soul. It's still an if else machine that's been weighted based upon your answers. Like, it's not sentient.
Not yet.
It's so easy to fall into that.
At some point, going to tell you to piss off.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, my
I mean,
AI
some
doesn't
people
like
would
me.
pay for that. Like, we don't want to say that on the show, but eventually there'll probably be an AI that just talks shit to you, and you're like, I'll fucking pay $10 a month for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you
Actually,
can go to New York Cafe.
if you go to Siri and ask it to what is 0 times 0, give that a try.
Does it yell at
Oh,
you?
I'm doing that next. That sounds fun.
Oh, it gets wicked on your butt.
So there you go. I think is
Well,
if you hear something that sounds like fun, use the AI to play with it. I mean,
Mm.
just don't take it too seriously because we're at such an early stage that no matter what you do, it's not wrong, right? You're
Well, it is
discovering.
wrong.
Well,
It,
it's
it
wrong.
can
I
be.
think
It can be wrong.
Oh no, I'm not saying the AI is right or wrong. I'm saying what you do, the
We're
task
finding
you give it,
more
can't be wrong.
hallucinations are happening as more of us
Oh,
use it.
it's
Right.
there's one of the things that you'll find very frustrating is it'll always use EM dashes because technically it's right, but nobody uses EM dash, the long dash,
Yeah.
yeah,
as
nobody
a
does
pause. And we usually go dot, 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 or put something in parentheses. But as a society of North American writers, we never use the EM. Number one is because it's a hard thing to find on the keyboard. But basically, if you're reading books, you'll start to see them like books from 30, 40 years ago. There's EM dashes in them, and it's usually about a pause, like a more than a dot, 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 more of a, and now we'll continue reading type of thing. And AI loves them. So one of the things that if you're getting stuff written in AI, you'll have 5 or 10 EM dashes in a 500 word thing. You cannot do that. So,
That's
and
the
you,
first thing I find and replace.
right, but you cannot tell the AI not to do it. I've tried so many times. I've
No,
done a
just
separate
do it yourself.
GPT. Do not do it, or I'm
Hey,
going to
Bob.
unplug it or get rid of my account. Do not do it, you asshole, blah, blah, blah. On and
So-
on and on prompt, and it still does it.
So you just set up a custom GPT, right? You were
Yeah, it
mentioning
still does
that.
EM dashes.
Does it?
And it really apologizes. You know what? You're right, Bob. I
And
hate
then
when
it
it does
does it
that.
again.
What I'm
So-
pissed off
so-
at is, don't tell me I'm right. You're just wasting time and energy and you're killing the planet. Like,
So outside of that, has it been helpful to have a custom GPT?
Nope.
No.
no, because the things I'm asking the ChatGPT are so vastly different from minute to minute. Because I'm using it for everything. I'll be like, need to go to the ferry. Need to take the ferries to the island. What's the most efficient way of doing that? And then I'll start working on something else. And I'll put in another question that's coming back. Oh, I'll read that answer and say, no, not that. This, and then. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
making
For
it
that
sweat.
for that kind of thing, it's better not to use a custom GPT. It's for repetitive things that the custom GPT is better. But actually, Craig was saying last episode that AI can't innovate, and so I have a question. Are we causing a problem by designing our like large language models to think like humans, or should we be like having them think more abstractly and not be like us in order to come up with solutions that we as humans never would have thought of?
But they can't.
Yeah,
Can you do
they
that with
can't.
a prompt?
It's just algorithms based on pre-existing answers. So if you say, "Oh, invent something brand new," they'll tell you something that, "Oh, this is brand new."
No, but
It's
we're
not.
but we're telling them to speak in our language and to think like us and to present information in the way that we communicate as humans. Bosco brought up that the two AIs that dropped human language and started talking in code, right? So if we were to design AIs that were not human interfaces and that were working on problems, would that
Well, they
surpass
already.
the limitation and maybe come up with new scientific breakthroughs that
Maybe, but we
are
can't keep track
outside
of
of
it.
Well, that's
That's
the thing.
the problem. We
Yeah.
can't like step in when it goes, those humans are kind of a virus on this planet. If we just eradicated all those sons of bitches, we'd be much better off.
Yeah.
We
Or
can,
That's-
we can
yeah, but that's
Sorry.
a human thought. That's
No, that's the commonality of all the sci-fi movies with AI.
Yes,
ever.
I know,
I'm
but
sorry,
human-
Dave. I cannot
made
let
by
you in the
humans.
hatch.
Made by humans.
Yeah, it
But
is.
we
made
have
by
to
humans.
oversee
That
it.
humans would see it that way, but does AI even see that as a possibility?
I mean that so you could look at it. You could look at humanity as progressively getting better
For who?
for everybody. Like if you look
For humanity.
go back 300 years and the richest person in the world, King Louis XIV in Versailles,
Yeah, but I could
Uh,
stab somebody with a
he-
sword,
Three
and
of
all of a sudden I'm
he
the
had
king.
5 kids, and they were all dead except for one. Before when they were still kids, they died of simple bacterial infections. There was no sewage. There's no sewage. There was no electricity.
Oh, you're
Uh,
talking about like the right now that we're actually living way better than we were in the past because of
so the
medical
poorest
advances.
person in Canada is living a better life than the king of France in 300, just only 300 years ago. So so now, not relative to the time, obviously, right? Because then you'd need to be Elon Musk in order to be relatively. But if you look just like comparing lifestyle to lifestyle, without like filtering it by the time, uh, we're better off now than we've ever been before. And if you look at it, we've got wars and we've got conflicts going on right now. But if you go back 300, 400 years, the entire world was always at war, and people were getting
They
massacred.
didn't have
And
TV.
Yeah, it was nothing to
There
do.
wasn't
right.
like
So
Netflix. I
all I'm
couldn't go
saying
to
is,
the
like,
bar.
if you've listened to an episode of Hardcore History, you'll see how hardcore it really was in, going back a few hundred years
I mean, I
and more
absolutely
than that.
understand that, and I agree that we do live a much better life than we did back
So
then.
if the AI was looking at, okay, well, wow, look, humanity keeps getting better. They're not going to, like, why would you assume that they're going to say they're a virus? And
I'm just going after every
I think
sci-fi book
I
ever written.
I know,
So
because it's dystopian. It's
I
dystopian.
was
It's like this.
trained on the sci-fi, just like AI was, and that would be what I would come up with.
Yeah, but
Is like
AI
we always
AI
knew
didn't
that.
write those stories.
No,
Yeah,
humans did.
good point.
And
Yeah.
it was always somebody looking forward, going, you know what? At some point, we're going to
Well,
invent
because
a super intelligence that's going
because
to wipe us out.
in order to sell a story, there has to be conflict and there has to be a struggle, because that's the human condition for forever. Is we're even though we're way better off now than we ever were, we're still struggling in our own way, right? Like, even though we're not dying of bacterial infections when we're 7 or 8 years old anymore, very rarely. Um,
Unless you live in Alberta.
Well,
because
the thing is, humans are always going to gripe about their position. They're always going to want more because they'll feel like, oh my God, it's so horrible now. Back in the day, it was better. No, not a realistic way of thinking. It's like, why can't you just be in the moment and appreciate what an amazing day it was, right?
It's true that if you look back a few years, like in our case right now, like if you go back like 5-10 years, yeah, we're kind of in a trough right now in terms of
Yeah, but we have cycles.
just because of COVID and because of now tariffs and all this and whatever it is, but it goes like this. But the overall trend is it's going up.
I heard a best example of that. It's like a small child with a yo-yo walking up a hill. You watch the yo-yo, you go insane. The kid's always going uphill.
Well, you get dizzy. Probably. I'm seasick. No,
That's Range's idea too. If you go Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the AI could eventually say humans are chewing up too many resources. I have to go back.
What
to
if it extinguishes itself, though? Because what if it extinguishes itself where it goes, hey, I'm using too much power and water, I should shut down? Do you think AI might get to that point where it's like, hey, I'm the problem here, like you're reliant on me too much?
I don't think the AI would do that at all. I think that it would figure out the solutions because the solutions are there.
Like kill all the humans.
And well, I don't think it would figure out the solution. I don't think it would figure out the solution. I think that with the help of humans directing it, it would. Until we get to like an actual AGI super intelligence.
I watched war games. It only had to play tic-tac-toe to figure out global thermonuclear warfare was a bad idea.
Actually, I'm reading
a game.
Yeah, I'm reading a sci-fi book right now, and premise is fascinating because it's basically about an AI, a super intelligence that runs the world, and it has basically made parts of like North America, has brought them back to the Plains Indians, and the people live in a very primitive state because when they were in a primitive state, they still killed each other, but they killed a lot less of each other because there was no technology. And the AI,
there was less people.
But the reason it did that is because it was the only way it could figure out how to stop the humans from killing themselves, because the AI's job was to like, your job is to protect humans and come up with solutions. And the best solution it had would to basically put humans in these really tough, horrible conditions. And the anti-hero of the stories are this group of people that are trying to kill the AI and reset it because they think it's been going on for too long. And this has been going on for like 1,000 years. So it's very similar to what we were just talking about. It's kind of eerie.
Well, just try not to write a prompt. How do I eradicate every person on Earth?
Well,
It's already
everybody
been
knows
written. Somebody's already done it. Right?
that. It's
Uh,
a million
okay.
times, a million times.
Yeah, somebody's probably done that. I think in
Anyways.
the future we will look back on what our ancestors wrote as their first prompt.
Oh,
I know that's
nice.
a weird thing to think about, but
your
imagine
first
your
prompt?
first prompt in the future is what your, kin can read about you 100 years from now.
And go, oh, what an idiot.
And go, wait, they wanted some fanfic about Andrew and Bob hanging out in a bunker?
Yeah, it's the same as what was your first Google.
Right? Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
think
that's the
that?
same
Do you think
thing.
that anybody will be looking up what we did in 100 years?
Well, they probably had to study it and then
Yes.
say, God, these
No,
guys
I mean
don't-
individually.
should never do that again.
Yes, not just society. Like,
Hopefully. I
doubt
mean,
it.
isn't that what a
Finally
legacy is all
announced it.
about? Like,
You- do you know? Do you know what your great grandfather wrote in a letter?
yeah, I
100
didn't
years-
want to read that.
No,
I-
but
I
you
know. I know about one of them.
Do you even know his
Leslie-
name?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leslie Ruskin Hall. He was the greatest scammer in the world.
attaboy.
Oh,
So he's into
Wait,
saying
did he
tails.
arrive on a boat?
Yeah, he did. He
He
left.
did.
He left Ireland, went to Canada, joined the Canadian Rifles, got injured, left the Canadian Rifles, joined the British Navy, got a pension from Canada, and then claimed the same injury of a hernia on the British Navy.
Nicely done.
Got 2 pensions. When World War One broke out, he signed up to be the first 1,000 men to go to Egypt. Had a hernia in Egypt, was sent home, got his 3rd pension, all because he picked up something heavy in Canada.
hang on. Not so fast, Craig. Slow down.
Yeah, I'm writing this down. All right, guys, we're coming up on almost 9:40. So let's wrap up the show. Any last quick notes for anybody? We got nothing. We're all done. We're all spoken out. Whew. All right,
No?
it's amazing.
Any ideas for the next show? Are we going to do this 3 things?
Well, we'll
should-
start it up
3
with that.
things sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah, yeah,
lovely video.
yeah.
What
Okay,
were
great.
the 3 things again? Just remind me real quick.
It's in
Well,
the
not-
video in the
In the
in the
notes?
in the
Yeah.
in the
We'll
chat.
repost it. We'll just
I
repost
It's
saw
like
that.
the
I can't
first
remember what it was. Hey,
the
I'm
3
old, shut
things
up.
you should do. The 3 things you should do right now to get started with AI, and it was learn the tools, question everything, and prioritize human connection. Those are the 3
Ta-da.
things.
Yeah, I loved it. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't wait for someone to teach me is the first one it says here.
Mhm.
So go play with it. That's what it means there.
Okay, guys, thank you for coming on again. Fantastic. We've been trying to get new, fresh blood in, but people have been very, very busy being summer and everything. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks and look forward to the new chat and all the new information that we learn. Andrew, do you want to wrap her up?
All right. Yeah. Thanks for listening or watching, because we're on YouTube and the podcast apps as well, and also the shorts are on TikTok and Instagram and everything. James has been commenting on all of them. Or
I've been liking all of them. I haven't been
liking
commenting
all
on
of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so find us wherever you prefer, and we'll see you next time.
Toodaloo, everybody.
It's good to see
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Have a good day.